What's up, everybody? This is 3, and welcome to the Infiltrate podcast. Today, I'm super excited because I'm with DJ Bishop on the beat, Vice President of Infiltrate Records, and with an Ohio artist who is just awesome. I absolutely love his music, Seth Benjamin. What's up, brothers? How y'all doing today?
What's up?
Hey, how's it going, 3?
It's good, bro. It's good. It's good, man. I'm glad to be with you, brothers, man. And I'm really happy to be talking to Seth this evening, dude. It's going to be awesome. So, yes. So welcome. So Seth, you're from Ohio, right? Were you born there?
I live in Ohio now. I was not born here. Nope. I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm an Okie originally, and ministry brought my family to Ohio when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And been in Ohio as my home base, pretty much ever since then. So, yeah.
Dude, I love it, man. Yeah, I'm a Floridian. I've never been out to Oklahoma at all.
Okay.
To the Midwest. It's one of the few states I have not visited, but I have been to Ohio, and I drove, and there's a lot of flat land. It's cold and stuff. And then I drove through Illinois too, man. And there was a lot of flat land and a lot of cornfields.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah. People always make the joke about Ohio. For whatever reason, we're famous for the hell is real signs on the side of the road. I don't know if you've ever driven 75 up through Ohio, but people always make the joke that it'll just be like cornfield, hell is real sign, cornfield. So those hell is real signs are somebody's ministry out there. I'm not sure whose it is, but they've been up as long as I've known. So,
dude, that is hilarious. Hilarious. But yeah, man, it's an honor to sit down with you and talk with you. I've been following your music for the past couple years. I know 2023, you didn't put out as much music because you have something in the works now, a music school, which we will talk about and dive into as we get into this show. But yeah, brother, I just thank you for your time, and Bishop too, DJ Bishop on the beat. He's Vice President of Infiltrate Records, and man, me and him have been making music together for going on 3 years, and he's a jack of all trades, really he is, and just an amazing DJ, hailing from the great state of California. So way out in the Bay Area, out in the
Bay Area.
So yeah, it's awesome to have both you guys on here today. So today we're going to be talking about just Seth and what he has going on, how long he's been doing music, your testimony, your singles, man. They're fire. Full house, breakfast in bed. Man, if you guys have not heard it, y'all need to go check it out. I'm telling you, it's awesome, and he's super creative. So, Seth, I want to get into this, man. I want to get into this, and I want to say this before we start that, dude, we're going to do a song together. Because Bishop introduced me to your music, and I just love it. And then to know that you produce, that you record, and that you pretty much do it all is something to me that is like, I love it because between Bishop and I too, we create a lot of our music pretty much, and pretty much do everything top to bottom as well. So I love it. And it's kind of hard when you find that, find another person that kind of is their producer and engineer and mastering and just kind of understands all of the music business. And I feel like that really describes you, Seth. So how long have you been doing music, brother?
Oh man, this is gonna reveal how old I am. I don't know if I want to talk about that. I've been doing music is my whole life a fair thing to say? I mean, I grew up in a musical family. I got an older brother and sister who very musical. They're 6 years older than me. so I was just, I grew up, with them always singing with my mom, and they used to sing at church and do events and stuff. And every once in a while when I got old enough, they started to work me in. But I guess it really took off, or really kind of a defining moment for me with music would be when I was like 13. My brother had this, actually, I think I have it in here. It's this black guitar right behind me. Black Beauty, he called it. I don't know if you guys can see it in the dark. Black acoustic back there. Yeah. That's actually my brother's guitar, and it was chilling in his room. And I was 13, and I snuck in and I sat down, and I wrote my first song. It was a love song from my girlfriend, Crystal Keeler. If she's watching this podcast, shout out, Crystal.
Yeah, shout out, Crystal.
But I think the song was called Crystal Clear, because even back then, I knew how to do some wordplay. But awesome. Those are jokes, obviously. But yeah, so that was when I was 13. I picked up the guitar, and I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with it. I thought it was super fun to play. And from there, being a pastor's kid, I'm a PK. If y'all know the mess that can come with, but I grew up just in the church all the time. And so the next kind of way for me to express myself was, of course, through the worship music and the church music. So got the guitar and started learning. Man, I don't even know what that era of worship music would have been. A lot of Chris Tomlin back then for me.
A lot of Chris Tomlin.
As a white boy in Ohio, a lot of Chris Tomlin. Still a lot of Chris Tomlin, honestly. But so we need to ask him about that staying power, that legacy. So
yeah,
man, he's been in the music business for a while.
Yeah, he has.
In the industry. He has been in, and so has Toby Mac too, man.
Yeah,
I think Toby Mac.
Yeah.
Wow.
So would you say that Chris Tomlin was an influence on you?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that it was like my exposure to like a dude with an acoustic singing to God, like it was, I think what, like if I had to say like what my early influences were, it would have been probably more like POD and Reliant K and like those kinds of bands. That's when
stuff.
Yeah, like that's when I was really like, okay, like, like when like that Sonny had a freestyle on like a super old POD record. And that was like one of those moments where like I was like, okay, what's this guy doing? With kind of the rap over the rock. And that was a cool transition for me as somebody who was predominantly into like punk, pop punk, rock. And then it kind of pulled me into it because, where I was in the Midwest, it would have been like top 40 hip hop, so my exposure to hip hop would have been like Eminem, what they could play on the radio maybe, and that kind of stuff. And, but I always loved the rhythm of it and the wordplay and the phrasing. And so POD kind of introduced me to that a little bit back in the day. But yeah, I'd say POD, Reliant K, those were some early Christian influences, Christian music influences. There probably others. I started a pop punk band when I was 13, pretty soon after I got a hold of the guitar and learned some bar chords. That's awesome. So yeah, so I think the church music was like doing the worship thing. It was more just like, it was like such a default aspect of my life as a PK, like just being around the church and but worship was never like, it was always like calling, or like it was just like I'm going to serve the church in this way. I'm going to do this. And it was a thing that God constantly he's consistently pulled me back into, to use my gifting in that way. But then there's always been like this outside element too, of like, I just love writing. I love writing love songs. I love writing rap, I love writing hip hop. I love wordplay, all that stuff, so, those two things, like the worship music and then like the artistry, not that there can't be artistry in worship, but like the corporate worship music, those things have always run parallel pretty much my whole life, and I imagine they will until God's done, using me, in that way. I mean, I still, to this day, I led at a little church here in Ohio this morning with a buddy. We had 2 acoustics and we were up there on stage leading some worship music. And that's the way we serve our church. And, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to be able to use the gifts for that. But I'm also thrilled that I get to, exercise my artistry and write music and put it out as well. So from there, I don't know. I grew up, I was in and out of a bunch of different bands and rock, and I would do these little rap projects on the side because I just always loved it. In college, I was known as the acoustic kid who raps because I'd carry around an acoustic. And, in the Ohio context, a lot of people would relate it to like, you want to be Jason Mraz? Like, that's what people would say. Like, you want to be Jason Mraz, because that was like the closest thing they could think of to like acoustic and rap.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I guess Jason Mraz had the singing, the funk, the little hip hop vibe going on. Okay.
A little bit. Yeah. He definitely had that influence, especially in those early records. He's drifted good. A little bit from that. Yeah. He's super talented. And So in college, I kind of persisted on that. And I was in and out of bands, like I said, and I've touched on a lot of genres over the years, and I just love music. And I don't like to paint myself into a corner. Excuse me. So I tend to just write whatever sort of spills out of me, I guess. And it's been different things at different times based on what's going on in my life. What am I heavily exposed to at the time? What am I really enjoying? I've really loved it. And I've kind of landed in this place these days. I mean, you mentioned Breakfast in Bed. It's kind of like I don't even know what you'd call it. It's got like acoustic in it. It's like a bedroom pop punk type.
Yeah, but it's
I don't know.
It's super, I love it.
That's what I loved. Like when I first saw you, Seth, like, it was so different, so creative and so unique. And that's why I introduced you to like 3. I was like, dude, this guy's got something going on. It was just amazing. It was so awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. The Breakfast in Bed song and the Full House. How did you come up with the names? So those are your last 2 singles. If anybody doesn't.
Well, so you missed one in between. There was Full House was my first song of the year. After that, I had Good Day.
Nope. I did listen to Good Day today.
Okay.
My apologies. I did listen to that, and that's an amazing song. It's going to be
that was good. Day. Yeah.
It's going to be a good day. Yeah. That's right. So Good Day was in between those 2, and then Breakfast in Bed just dropped last Friday. So
yes. Yeah. So let's talk about those 3. I mean,
okay.
and how did you? So is Breakfast in Bed your latest single? Is that to your wife? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that I think is interesting about writing music in the space of like Christian music or faith-based music is there's this like tendency to go pretty heavy on it's got to mention Jesus like a certain amount of times. And I think that there are certain songs that are written that way, like particularly corporate worship songs, where if you're writing something where the intent is for the body of Christ to get together and sing for how you would write that and create that. And then for me, I kind of write music just based on what God's doing in my life. So Breakfast in Bed is a really good example because on the surface, it would be like, it's kind of like a love song. It's like a dude singing to somebody he's saying he wants to spend his whole life with. And for me, so that song was born out of the fact that for my wife's birthday this year, me and the kids made Breakfast in Bed for her. And
that's cool.
we took it in and kind of surprised her with it. And she was just really excited. And after her birthday was done, she shared like, this was one of the like more meaningful birthdays I've ever had. Like, I just really love that. I wish this could be like every year. And so just that really intimate, special conversation that I was able to have with my wife because of this just simple little thing that me and the kids were able to do, that thing stuck, that the hook just stuck in my head, like the line, I want to make breakfast in bed for you for the rest of our lives. Like, that was just like, and so that was kind of the inspiration for the song. And I love taking poppy stuff and love songs and writing them in a way where I feel like it fits the God context, you know, where we're committed to each other for life. Cause that's an area where I feel like church music, Christian music lacks a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so any way I can contribute to that through my authentic experience in my home, you know, I love being able to do that. And since I'm a little bit older, I'm not going to say how much older, since I'm a little bit older and got some years in my marriage, I can speak on that stuff with a little more authority than some of the younger guys, some of the younger fellas who are maybe unmarried, maybe haven't been married long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just see it as a unique opportunity for me to write good, fun, poppy music with a meaningful message that still honors God. So it's a complex thing to do, and it might be a weird thing for people to think about if they've never thought about it for that context. But I think that pretty much summarizes what I try to do with every song that I write. I want it to be authentic to what God's doing in my life. And I want it to hopefully, you know, hopefully point to him or some aspect of the way he encourages us to live, you know, through his word and through his plan for our lives. So, yeah, so that's where breakfast in bed came from.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Today I was jamming out to Good Day, actually. I can't believe I missed it, but it's going to be a good day. That's what I was saying. Cause I was like, you know, tonight I'm going to talk to Seth, and I want to check out some of your stuff on Apple Music. And I did. And that Good Day, man, that thing is fire. It kind of, and I don't like to throw out similarities there, but it kind of reminds me of the Pharrell, I'm So Happy, Clap Along.
Yeah.
Little lager, you know, that it's going to be a good day, you know.
That vibe.
Really, it's a vibe, you know, and it's catchy and it can get people going for the day. But dude, through that too, man, you can hear the love of God just through that, you know. And so when I hear it, man, I know you're a believer. I know you're a Christ follower. And I love what you said about bridging the gap. You know, not every single verse has to say Jesus on it, you know, and not because we don't love Jesus, but we, you know, we aren't of the world, but we're in the world, and we do need to be relevant. I always say the reason being that people don't listen to some things Christian wise, or why people give you, you know, whenever I was younger, these looks that like, what do you mean Christian music or Christian rap, or what is that? Or because the music hasn't been up to par a lot of the times.
Right.
The movies haven't been up to par. We as believers need to be doing things in excellency. And yeah, entertainment doesn't replace God, but we still need to draw people in, you know. We still need to be relevant to what's going on today and with times. Everything evolves, everything does change, you know, and we do need to be relevant. So I love that you're bridging the gap with that, brother. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to, in whatever way. I mean, all you can really do is just be authentic. And it's like, you know, we plant the seeds, but God does the mechanics of growing it and doing what he's going to do and blessing it. And so I view songs as kind of the, you know, planting seeds out there in the world. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I love it. So I used to love Full House, the show.
Oh,
yeah. And you know, you mentioned that line about Danny with a full house, and I love that, bro. I really, really do. But so did that television show inspire the name of that song? Is that what?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when it came down to trying to pick a name for that song, sometimes you go right on the nose. I think Breakfast in Bed is a good example. Good Day is a good example of like, it's in the hook. I say it 300 times in the song. Like, that's what you name the song. Full House was a little bit different because it's just that one little line in verse 2, call me Danny with a full house. Yeah. And, but the reason I liked it is because if you're paying attention to what I'm singing in that song, it's how I feel like God has just filled my house with a blessing of a wife and a family that I love, and that's kind of what that song is supposed to communicate. So I was like, all right, so I really love this idea of like, call me Danny with a full house, because I got a full house, and I was just like, that's got to be the title, even if I'm the only one that gets it. I like that. I'm gonna have that be the title. So and so it's just that idea of having a house, like I said, having a house filled with a family you love, with a wife you love, and how blessed you are to experience something like that, and that's the whole thing. Like I'm running around meeting people, and but all I want to do is talk about my wife and my family. So that's kind of what that song was born out of, and it's in a similar space as Breakfast in Bed, in the sense that you listen to it, and it feels and sounds more like a love song, but again, in a way that my hope is that it paints this picture of like a family that loves each other, and a husband and wife that are committed to each other, and that sort of thing, so.
Dude, that's awesome. I would have never thought that. I mean, as I heard that song, I thought about the TV show, but yeah, I love that. That resonates with me, man. That what God's given you, your home, your wife, your children, your family. I mean, that's beautiful. And since knowing you, that's one thing I do love about you, is every time that I've called or anything, you've been getting the family together or doing something with the family or down in Florida.
Yeah.
And I just think that's awesome, man. I think that's awesome that you love your family so much. I think that we as believers, our family is priority. Our family's priority. We can't leave them in the dust. We definitely can't. So what is your testimony? How did you come to know the Lord, Seth?
So I already mentioned I was born into a ministry family. My dad is a pastor, and was a pastor before I was born. He's still a pastor. He was the gentleman at the pulpit today, the church where I was serving. So faith and Christianity has just surrounded me my whole life. And I sort of made that quip earlier about, like, if you've ever met PKs that can come with a little bit of uncertainty or baggage, depending on which PK you're talking to. And I'm thankful to say that my experience as a pastor's kid has been that I have a dad who loves me well, loved my mom well, whose faith was sincere, and who he was, who he spoke about, how he spoke from the pulpit is who he was in the home. And I know, because I've met lots of other PKs and I've been around, that that's not everybody's story. And I'm always sad to hear any story where a PK sort of had a negative view or a negative experience of the church or of faith as a result of growing up in a ministry family. And I would never want to discredit their experience or the things that they go through, but my story's just been different. I have a mom and a dad whose faith was nothing but a great model to me for how to live a good life. And so that was faith. Faith has just been around me my whole life. I would say I made the decision for myself to follow Jesus when I was pretty young. I think I was like 6 or 7. And I distinctly remember going in to my parents' bedroom, sitting on their bed and being like, I think I want to follow Jesus. How do I do that? Because when you're young and you're in the church, you hear about it so much. And eventually there's just like this thing that turns in your brain. You're like, they're talking about it all the time. My family talks about it. My dad, it's like clearly his life. What does that mean for me? What does that mean to me? And so I at some point pretty young made that decision, and I felt God touch my life and really big ways and little ways over the years, and just confirm who he is. And one of the things that I think that's interesting about growing up in a faith family is at some point the faith has to become your own. It can't just be your mom and dad's faith anymore. It can't just be your brother or sister's faith. Like at some point you've got to decide to make that faith your own. And I'm really thankful that God brought me to a place where I was able to make that decision pretty young. And, my faith in Christ has never let me down or never left me ever since that decision. Now, don't get me wrong. I've done stupid things and wandered and I've put distance between me and Jesus. But he's never put distance between himself and me, I guess, if that makes sense. So, yeah, my faith has been important to me through ups and downs. It brought me to a place where I always swore I would never do the pastor thing and never serve in ministry. And God had other plans. And so he took me down that path. And so one way or another, I've been in some type of ministry pretty much since I left college. And
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. So and there have certainly been times where I've done my very best to mess it all up, and he still redeemed me and saved me. And by his grace, I'm here today, and I'm alive, and I am well. So yeah, my faith's incredibly important to me. And I think that it's just one of those things that if you talk to me long enough, you just realize like it's inseparable from who I am and how I got from where I was to where I am today. So it's just going to be in some way in everything that I say and do. And I'm okay with that, So, yeah, I guess that kind of tells you. Do you have any other questions about it?
No, not at all, man.
I do actually. I have a question. I think it's amazing what you just said, how you turned to your parents and said, well, what is this like? What does this look like to be a Christian? Yeah. And it's like, I think a lot of us don't ask that question. They become, they accept Christ into their heart and their life and stuff like that, but they don't really know or take the time to like say, okay, well, what's next? I mean, I know that like, going to church and stuff like that, all these pastors are like, yeah, come accept Christ in your life. But like, what does that actually mean? Like we need to ask those questions, because it's not just like accepting Christ in your life and you're like, okay, well, we're done. Okay, let's go by. It's like, no, you like what you did, you turned around and asked like, okay, well, what does this actually mean to follow Christ? And it's like, I think that's amazing what you just said,
Yeah, I do too. I loved what you said about your parents too, and just your family and your upbringing. I was at an Iron Sharpens Iron men's conference down here in Florida, and they said that families that go to church, the divorce rate is less. Yeah. It's less. Families that pray together, and husbands and wives that actually pray together, the divorce rate was like 1 in 1,150. That's pretty amazing, because God is at the center of families and the household. And I love that you had that experience with your parents too, just growing up, and your father was genuine and had a genuine faith in that. You could see that because, dude, look at you now. That's evident. That bears fruit. And, we clearly see that. And now you're spreading that message. If it wasn't, even in my life, I had a great friend. His family had an amazing example, and I got to witness that. And that absolutely played a major role in my faith as well. So that's awesome, brother. I just appreciate you sharing that. And, I just pray that you just keep continuing and just putting out what God has gifted you with, and just keep putting out the music that you're doing, bro, because somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to hear it. They need to hear it for sure. And heck, if it wasn't for your gifting and for music, I'm not sure we'd be on this podcast right now. which I think is just so awesome. God's planned for us three to be here for such a moment as this, which is awesome. So I want to ask you about what you're doing outside of music. Okay. I know we've talked a little bit about, this music school, but if you don't mind elaborating a little bit more about the music school that you have up in Ohio right now, and just, tell us a
I
little
can do
bit
that.
about it, bro.
So last year, 2023, you already mentioned it. My release schedule slowed down quite a bit. And there's a good reason for it, actually. For a long time, just kind of bouncing around in the back of my mind, I've always loved the idea of doing some sort of music school, something aimed sort of at kids. Because, just as you heard earlier in my story, I walked into my brother's room at 13, got to get my hands on a guitar, and, the rest is history. And I just feel like, particularly in rural Ohio, so I'm kind of like, I'm near a city, but my home church is in kind of a rural area. That's where I grew up. And those areas tend to be underserved. They tend to be kind of disconnected from the arts. There's not much of a scene for really anything artistic. Maybe you can find like a solid little like dance school for your little girl, but apart from that, it's kind of an underserved area in that regard. And the most common thing that kids are involved in is sports. Now, I think sports are great. This isn't like a slight against sports, but I just think music deserves a space at the table as well. And so I had been thinking about doing this for a little while, and I just was dragging my feet with it. And I got invited to sing some songs at a ladies event, and like it was like a Mother's Day ladies event. It must have been 2023, May of 2023 maybe. And I sang some songs with my sister that day, and we just sang some like acoustic stuff. And afterwards, a girl and her mom came up to me, and I don't know who was out there talking, because I must have shared the idea with somebody, because they said, "We heard you're starting a music school." And I was like, hold on, who told you that? I don't even remember who I told. What are you talking about? And so I said, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I had thought about it. What are you interested in?" And she's an aspiring artist. And she loved the songs that we played that day. She thought it was really cool that we performed live. And she found out that I release music online. And she was just like, can you teach me how to do that? And I was like, that's a cool idea, And I went home and I was kind of like chewing on it, talking to my wife. And every time I thought about the music school, I thought pretty traditional. Like, I'd probably teach some guitar, I'd teach some drums. I'm a multi-instrumentalist. So I can actually play the instruments behind my head. They're not just there for decoration. I don't know how well I can play them sufficiently. We'll say I can play them sufficiently. And I play drums, I play piano, I play guitar. I've played all of those professionally in one way or another over the years. And it's been, every single time I've had that opportunity, it's been an absolute privilege. And so I always thought, all right, if I did a school, these are the things that I would teach. But talking to this girl and her mom, I came up with the idea of, what if I taught like a music production class too? Like, what if I did those things and did like a music production class for like aspiring producers or beat makers or aspiring artists like this girl? What if I used all this knowledge, that I got from YouTube University over the last 6 or 7 years? What if I taught it to them directly, so that they weren't just lost in the weeds like I was for 7 years, trying to sort all this stuff out and figure it all out. And so that was kind of the final thing that sort of weighted me towards, all right, I'm going to do this. And so I started to formulate, what I was going to do. And basically I came up with the idea that I'm going to teach drums. I'm going to offer drum classes, piano classes, guitar classes, and a music production class. And so put the details together and just went with it with no real no real idea of anyone, with no real idea if this girl and her mom were actually going to sign up or if anyone else was going to sign up. But it was a thing that I had felt like God, had put in my heart and in my mind. I'm talking like for 10 years I've thought about it, just it's been bouncing around. Those ideas that bounce around in the back of your head and you're like, I don't know when that would happen, but God will show up and tell me when. And so this was the moment, right? So I did what I needed to do and put together some courses, and we set up a website for it and picked times to do classes, and divided it into two different age groups. So we do like 8 to 12-year-olds in one group, and we do 13 to 18-year-olds. I think it's that, or maybe it's 13 to 17. I don't really know. Whatever it is, it's 2 age groups. And so I just started by offering some level 1 classes. Like if you've never played guitar before, then this is the class for you. So, so I started promoting that pretty much as soon as I had the details together, which was very late in the game. But by the grace of God, I had like 15 students sign up for my first year.
Wow.
Which I have a buddy who does guitar instruction for like, have you ever heard of the School of Rock franchise? Like the School of Rock?
No, I can't say I've never heard of that. Have you?
So there's actual.
Yeah, I think I have.
Okay. So there's actual, like somebody took that. I don't know if they had to pay for it or if nobody owned it, but they actually, after the popularity of the movie and the whole idea of this School of Rock that Jack Black's character makes in that movie, they started real schools to teach kids like guitar and stuff. And so had somebody who was connected to that program, and they're very good at what they do. They have like franchises like all over the United States. I'm pretty sure like hundreds of schools. Wow. And so I was just sharing with him, I got 15 students. And he's like, wait, you already got 15 students? When did you start promoting? And I told him, and he was basically just like, that's insane, dude. So that to me was like, okay, well, God showed up then. Like, like praise God, somebody out there. And so thankfully, what's really cool is the secret, the magic that I wasn't expecting is I offered classes during the day too. And the homeschool moms found out, and pretty much most of my students are homeschool kids. So yeah, so they want something to bring their kids to at like 1 p.m. Because they're done with like their normal school. And for homeschoolers, they have no way, unless they show their kids like YouTube videos or something, there's no real way for them to do music unless the parent happens to be musical and has the time to like work through a curriculum with them. But like, a lot of these moms, they've got enough on their plates with like math and science and all the other stuff that they got to teach. So turned out like I was the perfect option for them to get their kids plugged into something that was artistic. And so we launched classes in September. Sorry, this is long-winded. I'll shorten it from here. We launched classes in September, and we're about to close out our year. I kind of designed it to go along with the school year. So we're about to close out our classes at the end of April, and I'm gonna do a big showcase. So every student gets a chance to perform what they've been working on. We're gonna do kind of a showcase, and I'm calling it most of them, none of them have ever performed before. So we're calling it their debut. So we're gonna put together a little concert and have them showcase what they've been working on and play some drums, play some piano, sing. This artist girl. So here's the tie-in. The artist girl did sign up. She's in my production class. And so we've been helping her record her very first song. She's a singer and songwriter. And so she is going to premiere her song that night for all her friends and family. Yeah, I'm helping her produce it basically. So she's learning like everything you need to do to produce your own song is basically what the class is. So
whenever that song is released, please, you got to tag us in it because we want to hear it, man.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I will. She'll be excited. She's already asking me. She's like, how do you get it on like the places where people listen? I'm like, oh, we'll talk about it. It's all part of the, so I'm going to show her how to self-publish, self-distribute, like talk about the options of DistroKid and TuneCore and all that stuff. It realistically, what God ended up doing is all this stuff that guys like us know because we've been in the industry long enough and we've watched it happen, or we've experienced it personally. I've just been able to use all of that and teach it to the kids and give them kind of like a fast track, which is a really cool feeling. And I would love nothing more than to keep, developing and giving these young artists an opportunity, because in an area like Ohio, there's nothing like that. Like like where we are, there's not, unless you go online, there's not going to be anybody who's going to teach you how to do this. So.
I don't know much of it anywhere. I mean, like, I know there's stuff across the United States, but it's not like heard of on a regular basis. Even here in Jacksonville, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a school that does it, but I think that's awesome. So are you teaching these kids Pro Tools, like,
so
Studio One, anything like that? Or
so we just work in Logic right now.
Okay, so y'all work in Logic.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you record with?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you record with Logic. Okay.
Yeah. I have a ton of experience in Pro Tools, Reason, and Logic. Live, I've used Live 9 or Live, what are they up to now? Whatever it is. I've used that for more like live stuff, actual live performance stuff, but not as like not for my like production DAW or my recording DAW. Pro Tools, most of my experience for Pro Tools came, mixing a lot of like worship projects and full band recording stuff in like the 2010s and stuff, but early 2010s. But yeah, so I'm on Logic now, and that's what I teach. So, but we've talked about like the idea of what a DAW is, how there are others, how they're similar, how they might be different, those kinds of things. Yeah, that's all part of the curriculum. So,
dude, that's awesome, man. Well, I can't wait.
That's amazing.
What you have coming out with this student of yours and the new single. So y'all be on the lookout for that, because it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure it's really, really great, man. So I think that's awesome what you're doing. I want to ask you too. So the name of your studio and really your company as well too is Light and Clay, right? Light and Clay Studios, or am I correct in that?
Yeah, Light and Clay Studios. Yeah,
I love it. Why that? Why that? Why?
So my wife actually picked the name, and when we lived in Columbus, Ohio, so big area in Columbus, and we started this company, and this just goes to show you how you just have to stay open-minded with what God will do, because when we started the company, we formed it as a LLC, as a studio, as like does business in the area of like media, music, and production, basically, because we had like big dreams about where it could go eventually, but all we were really doing at the time was like videography and photography. So, and my wife is a incredibly talented photographer. And so at the time we were doing a bunch of work, in Columbus. We worked with some food truck companies. We ran like their social media. We'd take pictures and video for them and that kind of stuff. And she did a lot of natural light photography for like families. She did, they're called Fresh 48. So it's like within 48 hours of a baby being born, you get the pictures taken, Fresh 48s. So she did that kind of stuff. And so at the time there was a song, and you're going to have to forgive me, cause I can't remember who the song was by. But there was the phrase, light and clay was in it. Like, and it was like, God does something with us like we're light and clay. And so the idea is that it plays on this idea that we're meant to be light, and we are clay in the potter's hands, right? Like, so we're shaped by God, and we're meant to go out and be light to the world. And since she's a natural light photographer, the imagery and the idea of light, it just really stuck with her. So she picked that name, and when the photography stuff was picking up, and then the videography stuff started happening, and that was where I kind of came into it. And we were like, what if this was like a real business, real LLC, and we really did this thing? And I was like, well, what about like the music side of things? And cause I was we were in ministry at the time, and I wasn't doing a lot of, I was like full-time ministry. That was really all I had time for at a church in Columbus. And, but I always felt that pull, that call, like, you need to be writing songs. You need to be writing and releasing them. Like, it's fine that you're in ministry, but you need to be writing and releasing songs. And I knew even back then, like, okay, this business needs to include that, even though I wasn't doing it at the time. And it would literally be years from the point where we started the LLC till I released my first song. But I loved the Light and Clay name. I loved her selection of it and her idea of why, and, you know, and I was just like, this is our thing. We're going to start this, and it's going to be Light and Clay Studios, and it's going to be anything and everything that has to do with like media, video, photography, music. You can call it a studio, and anything can happen in a studio. So, you know, so that's kind of where it came from. And all of the things I imagined Light and Clay Studios would be, it has been now. It just took probably 7 years, 7 years for all of that to truly come to fruition. And so the funny thing is, we don't do a ton of photography and videography now. We do, you know, it's much more on the music and education side, but but praise God, he had a plan for it. And even though I couldn't see it clearly, I had that vague idea of what I wanted it to be and what it seemed like he wanted it to be. And he showed up like he always does. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, man, it is amazing, dude. I love it. I love it. I was just reading about the potter and the clay the other day, and it's awesome, bro. And that's where I kind of thought that you got that from. But I love it, brother. I love it, brother.
Yeah, I'll have to ask her what song it was. I don't remember whose song it was, but I remember that it was a song, and that was the lyric was something along those lines.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. So what do you have coming in the future, man? Like, it's 2024. You've already dropped 3 singles. Let me be corrected, 3 singles.
3.
Yeah. So what do you have coming up?
We're not stopping. I mean, I'm gonna try and drop a single every 2-ish weeks. So until I run out of juice, I
remember in 2022, you were dropping songs like,
so crazy. I kicked it off with 21 and 21. So it's 21 songs in 21. And then I think I did I think I did 10 and 22, maybe. I can't remember.
No, so it was 2021 that you did the 21 for 21.
And one of them was on a Bishop beat, right? Isn't that how we connected? Because one of them was on a Bishop beat. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
That's how you guys connected right there. Which beat was that, Bishop?
That was the Chased beat, I believe.
That sounds right. It had like sirens and stuff in it.
Yeah, that's it.
I released it under the title "The Crowd," so it's like the idea of a crowd booing you, but you just keep on keeping on.
Okay. So a whole bunch of haterade out there in the crowd, but you just keep rocking the stage no matter what.
That's right. Yeah. Except for you realize that the haters was you hating on yourself the whole time. That's the twist. I think at the time that I put that, what's that?
That'll preach.
Yeah. I think at the time a tweet that I put out, you can't call it a tweet anymore. Or is it still called a tweet?
Yeah, what do you call it nowadays? You can't call it a tweet.
Post.
So what is it with this whole
a post on the platform X.
Why X? Why X? I don't want to get off topic here, but
he likes X, whatever his name is. Elon
Space
Musk.
X,
he just likes the X, man.
What does it symbolize, though? What does it represent?
I don't know. Let's get him on this podcast. Let's ask him.
I don't know.
There you go.
I'm ready, bro. I'll definitely talk to him, and that'll be the first ask is what is X. So, anyways,
I put a tweet out at the time, and I think the tweet said something like, "I promise you are in your own way more than anybody else is." Yeah, because that was just what I was going through at the time, you know. And so the crowd kind of ended up being like the people jeering you the most is like these people you invent in your head, you know, like they're not gonna like me because I'm in my 30s trying to do this still, or they're not going to like me because I'm a white boy from Ohio and I rap, or, they're not going to like me because, the church isn't going to like this because it's a love song. You know, it's like you can, and it's like you create, and maybe there's people out there, but rarely do you encounter them. You know, like rarely do you actually, you know, and once what you realize is when you do start encountering those people, they're just unhappy people. It has nothing to do with you really anyway, you know. It's not about what you're trying to do. So, but at that particular stage of what I was trying to do, my own brain was getting in my way more than anything, you know. And so that's what that song was. And I think I copped that Bishop beat.
Dude, I like that you're talking about that, man. I think sometimes we are our worst enemy, and heck, I don't mind being vulnerable, man. I've been my own worst enemy as well, too, man. If it wasn't for Bishop here in a little bit of community, man, you know, there are times I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to continue on with music or doing some of this. But when you reflect and you look back to why you're doing it, then all for the glory of God and the mission and the purpose that we have and the calling that we have, you're like, I can't stop. You know, if David wrote a psalm all the time, then I need to keep on singing. You know, I need to keep on rapping, dropping stuff, you know, but
David's in a cave with his enemies, like out, like hunting for him. He had time to write songs. So we don't have any excuses.
I know. Yeah. If you could write them, then doggone it, we can write them.
That's right.
All the time. Well, dude, the way you were releasing songs 21 out of 21 back, you know, a couple years ago, man, or a few years ago was insanity, but awesome. And the one thing I love that you do, Seth, is it's quality. It's awesome. And you can hear it in your production. And then to know that you're behind all of that production and everything, that's dope, dude. That's stinking awesome. And
I'm glad because a lot of times when you're working on stuff yourself, you're like, I hope this is good. You know, like I hope this is okay. And then you throw it out there. So it feels good to know that you guys are hearing it, and it's at least good enough that you're not like, hey, you should stop, you know.
We can be our worst enemy though. And hey, anyone listening to this conversation right now, don't let yourself get in the way of stopping what God has planned in your life, because somebody needs to hear. You are somebody's seed. You're the water, you're the sunshine to that flower that needs to bloom. And that's the amazing thing that God does with us is he takes our giftings and and even though we are imperfect, he takes our giftings and he's like looking at who is going to utilize these things for his glory, to glorify and to edify the kingdom. And he wants to utilize us. You know, it's beautiful. It's amazing. He doesn't need to, but he wants to. So, you know, don't let yourself get in the way.
That's right.
And if you do, make sure you have a community behind you or people that you can reach out to, and don't isolate, you know, get out there and talk to people and get encouraged. You know, I can't tell you how many times somebody talking to me has stopped me from stepping over that ledge, you know, so to speak. So yeah, brother, that's really, really good. Is that I'm in agreement with you. We can be our worst enemies, but let me say this: as believers, if we're doing it for the Lord, then who cares what people think?
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
well,
I mean, seriously, you know.
Yeah, I like to think of it this way too. Something that's helped me recently, you know, is if I'm going to call it an offering, which I'm a believer. So like I'm writing these songs and I'm offering them to God. What you can't do with an offering is you can't say, all right, God, I'm going to give you this. It's my offering to you, but I'm going to be mad if I don't get X in return. Like it's not an offering at that point. It's not an offering anymore. If you're like, this needs to happen. The content that I make for this needs to go viral, God. It needs to, you know what I mean? Like the things that we get wrapped up in as artists and people who are promoting, it's not an offering anymore. If you're trying to, you know, dictate to God what he does with the thing that you give him. An offering is something that you freely give and you say, all right, God, I trust you so much implicitly that even if I put this out there and I don't see any tangible thing come from it, I trust that I'm offering this to you and you're going to use it even if it's in a way that's intangible to me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And
without terms and conditions.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's not easy to do. But it's beautiful.
Because in the normal, and as a human, we want to react. Fame and these things are natural. They're natural that people want. They want to be, they want to beat the person in the race. They want to be the best. They want to win. We show our accomplishments by the trophies that we win and by coming in first place and so forth. So absolutely, brother. It's I love what you just said. You couldn't have put that any better about an offering. There's a difference between praise and worship as well too. There's a difference between worshiping to and at Abba, at the Father as well. And I love that about you, Seth. Bishop knows this as well too. Man, I'll just have a guitar in my hand as well. I play a little guitar, and we did a song called Saturate Me. And I never forget, I just was looking out at the backwoods of the new home that God blessed me with down here in Florida. I was looking at the woods and just knew that I felt the presence of God there. And I just sensed that. And I was asking the Father, what do you want me to sing to you today? And he said, saturate me, fill me with your Holy Spirit, saturate me, and we ended up coming up with a hip hop song out of that. But I remember they were simple chords that I was rotating between, I think, G and C, and maybe an E minor in there. You got to throw an E minor in there.
Those are the worship chords right there.
Yeah, those are the worship chords right there.
Definitely the Tomlin worship chords.
Definitely the Tomlin or the Elevate worship songs, right? G, C, E minor. But yeah, bro. And then that song ended up appearing, and Bishop was like, how did you get saturate out of that? That's so crazy how you took saturate and turned that into a song. But that's it, because I finally learned as well that when I can stop worrying about what people think or say and doing it for the love of God and only the love of God and the giftings that God has given to me and out of reverence, then that's when the writing started to become better. The production started to become better. New songs started coming, and I just believe that, man. As believers and as Christians, I love it, brother. I love it. I love it, man. We are to be if we are offering, man, it is we aren't expecting in return. We're offering because we know that God loves us. We are offering to him because we know that he's the King of Kings, man, and the Lord of Lords, and he knows all. And I think there's a verse too that's where the Lord says, how can you tell me? I'm the one that created you. How are you dictating to the creator the rules and how things are supposed to go, when he created you? There's a verse. I don't know it, so I'm not going to botch a verse on this podcast.
That's actually, and I don't know if this is the specific verse we're talking about, but there's that sentiment somewhere in scripture where it's talking about what can the clay say to the potter,
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Well, I love it, man. I love it. So what else I know you're releasing a lot of music. Is there a new song that's going to be next, or is there a song that you have?
Man, I wish I could answer that song with complete clarity. I wish I could answer that question with complete clarity. Okay. I have like 3 songs that I'm juggling, and it depends on which one lands the mix first is kind of what, that's kind of where it.
So that's how you do it. Whatever song lands the mix, that's how you release it.
I mean, I have a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Of like everything I'm working on, where it's at, in terms of like, is it an idea? Does it have lyrics? Is it recorded? Does it have masters? It's like, and I have a big list of songs, and I add to it and move stuff over. So I have a couple that are like close enough to the can be distributed, the can be distributed column. There's one that I'm hoping it is. It's called, or it'll probably be called All in Your Hands.
Okay.
But but I can't say for sure. So
Okay. Well, I'm excited, man. I can't wait to hear what you have coming out, and especially with a lot coming out in 2024. So if you guys ain't following Seth Benjamin, y'all are crazy. Y'all need to follow him because he's amazing, and the giftings that God's given him are they're just awesome. And I'm going to say this right now. I said this before we even jumped on here. I'm doing a song with you, and I can't wait to do it. And Bishop and stuff, we're all going to come together, and we're letting the world know right now we're going to come out, and it's going to be a banger. It's going to be a banger for Jesus, man. And I'm excited about that. I can't wait. Bishop's been over and over again. There's even a beat that I have. You remember that beat, Bishop? And you're like, hold on, you need to reach out to Seth about this. And I've just been sitting on this.
Yeah.
He knows what I'm talking about. I don't even know the name of it, but when he heard it, he gets all excited. You know, you see that smile on Bishop's face.
I want Seth to do a chorus for it.
Yeah. Right? That
It's sick.
It's pretty fire, man. So
I do love putting hooks on stuff. So
oh yeah, I know, man. I noticed that, dude, and you got an awesome voice. I love that.
Thank you.
I feel a lot of similarity with you too because I play. I don't play as many instruments as you, but I play guitar, little keys, and produce and do all of that, and love singing, love rapping, and and same thing. I don't feel that there's any set cadence on the way that I do music. I mean, I just release what's in my heart. There's sometimes no rhyme or reason. I mean, Bishop and I have thrown dubstep and EDM onto things, and we don't care, man. If it resonates and we're honoring the Lord, we're all about it. And that's the thing that I love that Bishop has brought, even to myself, has been the versatility of really house, EDM, dubstep.
Yeah.
I would have never had that incorporated into my music if it wasn't for us getting together, so
that's awesome.
I want to challenge artists, get together, collaborate.
Yeah.
That'll cause you to step your game up. It'll cause you to write better. It'll cause you sometimes to go to the next level. It'll help you. It'll help you a lot. And then plus you're bringing two audiences and two brands and two ministries together. So collaborate, you ain't got to do everything solo dolo. So
that's right.
But yeah, brother. So I'm excited for what we can expect to hear from you in the future. If you guys have not, make sure that you check out Seth's new single, Breakfast in Bed. It's awesome. So all you married folks out there, or people that are going to be getting married, you can sing this to the woman of your dreams or to your wife that God has given you. And if you have not, check out Seth's website, which is at the bottom of this podcast right now. It is at www.sethbenjamin.com. Easy to remember, sethbenjamin.com. And if you have not, make sure that you follow him on Instagram. It is Seth Benjamin MSC, or TikTok, same thing, Seth Benjamin MSC. Click on it, like him, follow him, stay up to date with what he has going on. It's amazing, and support him. I really, really love what you're doing, Seth. And I just thank you so much for your time today with us, brother. And I thank you for anyone that has taken the time to listen today. And we're just excited for what the future holds. And again, y'all stay tuned, because I'm telling you, I'm going to be releasing a song with Seth, me and Bishop.
Yeah, let's go.
I'll tell you for that. Good. But Seth, I just thank you so much for your time. Hey, and if you guys are in Ohio, reach out to Seth. He's got the music school going on, ministry, so much going on. And Seth, every time I talk to you, man, it's seriously a pleasure, and I'm excited to continue to grow in relationship with you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. So many kind things said. Thank you so much.
And I got one more question for you, Seth. As far as your music school, can they find out more information on your website about it?
Yeah, it's lightandclay.com, lightandclay.com. And
okay.
It'll put up
and are you doing just local kids and stuff like that, or
Yeah,
are you
right.
also reaching out and doing like a master class online?
No, right now I'm just doing local.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that's how it'll always be. I've toyed around with putting together something online, but y'all know how this is. It just really comes down to with how I allocate my time. So
Yeah.
Right now we're sticking local, trying to serve this local area of kids, and we'll see what God does with it. But yeah.
Hey, and I
Awesome.
put that down at the bottom of the screen as well, too, lightandclay.com. If you're in the what part of Ohio are you in? I know you said south central Ohio.
It's Central Ohio. I mean, I'm close enough to like Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus.
Love it.
You know, so
Yeah. Busy area.
Awesome.
It's a busy area, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
hey, go in if any parents listening, homeschoolers, lightandclay.com, check it out. Make sure that you check out Seth Benjamin. And bro, I just thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for
definitely.
what God's doing in your life. And dude, we are praying for you and with you, and we are here for you, and we support you, and man, are just excited to share your stuff and share your music and singles and what God is doing in your life. And again, like I said, drop that single with you, bro. I can't wait.
Let's do it. Sounds
But
good. Thank you so much.
guys so much for tuning in and listening to me, Seth, and Bishop today as we kicked it a little bit and talked about Seth Benjamin and what all he's doing. So y'all be on the lookout in 2024 for him. Thank you so much for your time, for tuning in. And until next time, we will see you then. Thank you and peace.